This is False Start, a college football podcast for everyone and everyone else. I'm John Buhler, staff writer at fansided.com. I'm joined today by a man who stood in line to see a show last night and there was a light on. The heavy glow proved to him that life is beautiful around the world. Although the psychic spies from China tried to steal his mind elation, it was still one hell of an elevator ride until his fortune faded. It's so hard to find. It's so hard and lonely too when you don't know yourself. Cody Williams, content director, fansided.com. Have you ever been to California? Do you want to go to California? Are you cool with California? Shaka bra. What's up?
Just thinking about going and doing some intravenous drugs under a bridge. I think that's where I'm at apparently at this point. But I'm doing good, man. It's a good Thursday. Finally got a good night's sleep under my belt. So feeling good, man. How you doing?
Got a bad disease.
Bad disease.
Yeah, I didn't sleep very good the other day too. I'm up at like 1:30. I'm like, I guess I'm up for 6 hours now. So
Yeah, it'd be like that sometimes. It's not great.
no, thinking about trying to solve the world's problems at 3:30 in the morning is just a lost art,
It's
lost
daunting.
cause.
It's a daunting task. And someone has to do it.
Yeah, look at me trying to read off the screen when I got my microphone right here. And I'm like, this is not going good right now. I saw this. I'm like, yes.
Hey
I
man,
have
look, we all have to deal with our own problems. Like I hate having the second monitor just like a little bit too far to the right, so I feel like I'm just like turning all the way around to go look at it.
I know I'm performing about as well live as the Red Hot Chili Peppers did when I saw them at Gwinnett Center in 2006. Worst concert I've ever been to. They were not good. I told you
I've
about that, right?
You have, and I don't think I mentioned this to you, but one of my buddies has seen him like 4 or 5 times, and he says it's a wildly erratic, like depending on what type of show you're gonna get.
Yeah, basically what happened with me was Anthony was pissed at Chad. Chad went off stage and just smoked a heater, and it just left Flea and John up there playing like a cappella. So John's up there like, let's play some U2. That is not the vibe there. A bunch of pimply faced cargo short wearing guys who are 16 years old trying to like drink beers in the parking lot. That's what the vibe was at that show.
You know what they want to hear? Some YouTube.
I mean, they really want some depth here, but yeah, we're gonna fall start here a little bit. Yeah, so we're gonna be doing Red Hot Chili Peppers themed JLN, and because we're talking about life under a bridge, we're gonna be talking about Barry Badgernath and Beerfest because
Mhm.
I want to challenge myself to see if I could put some movie quotes here with Beerfest, and they're all really profane. This is the hardest one to date.
Yeah, the Broken Lizard comedy troupe, not exactly known for a clean brand of comedy.
The only thing clean about them is Colgate University, the toothpaste that was made there.
That's right. Teeth are bright and shiny.
God, I don't know if I ever told you this. I think of the guy Eric, whatever it is. So they were all in
Mhm.
Beta Theta Pi up there, and he was the pledge educator. And one of the things he would do is says, "How much do you love this chapter?" He would take like a nail gun and shoot it into his leg, but he had like a fake leg, and people would freak out every time.
That's incredible stuff.
So the guy who plays Todd Wolfhouse.
Loved. That's incredible.
But yeah, obviously we've all started with who's Barry Badgernath. Now, instead of Deutschland's greatest beer, we merely have the fourth best behind Steinermarsen, Radebürger, und Becks. Yes.
Facts.
From Ward Manual's manual, let's go. Yes. So you did Goldilocks tremendously on
Appreciate it.
Tuesday night.
Appreciate it.
It was really great. I kind of share a lot of the same thoughts that you do, maybe a few slight variations, but yeah, I wrote the big article about too hot, too low. I don't know what they're doing with Penn State. I don't understand it at all. We'll probably talk about this more. Like, I'm rooting for them to lose because I don't think they deserve to be in there because they're going to get smoked. They're going to lose at home if they have a freshman.
100%.
It's like even with Texas, like Texas beats somebody of quality in Vanderbilt. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
Penn State's even done that yet. Maybe their best one's over Washington, who they just smoked, and Washington's borderline bowl eligible.
Yeah, no, I think like when you look at Penn State, I understand keeping them in the 12 team playoff field. Don't get me wrong. Like I don't not understand that. But like it was why I was a big proponent of dropping them further than they did after the Ohio State game. Because you look at this and like, what's the difference between Penn State and SMU at this point? Well,
Yeah.
10 spots in the college football playoff rankings, but they're not like their resumes are shockingly similar. And I would argue that SMU has passed the eye test more. So like, and you keep going down the list, like, why are they ahead of Indiana? Indiana hasn't lost a game. And like their loss is if Indiana loses this season, their one loss is going to be the same as Penn State's, but Indiana has looked better to this point.
Why
They
are they
have
ahead of?
like just yeah, they have just dominated to this entire point. So like it just doesn't it feels like Penn State's getting credit for losing to Ohio State, and that
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
No, it's like, why are they ahead of Indiana? Why are they ahead of Tennessee? Like,
Hmm.
why are they ahead of SMU? Why are they ahead of Georgia, to be honest with you? I don't really know what they've done. Like, the
Yeah.
comparable is Texas, and Texas, it still feels like they've been the most steady team in the SEC in a very chaotic league. So maybe you give Texas a little credit there, but Penn State, it's just like you're not going to get to Indianapolis. It's just there's like a 7% chance of you doing that if possible. You went out, you're going to be 11-1. Like it's doesn't make any sense. Similar feelings with Notre Dame here too. It's just like it's just this Notre Dame exceptionalism just drives me insane. Like
Yeah.
if you like what's the difference between them and Washington State? Like the A&M win. In Washington State's one loss is to Boise. It
Hmm.
doesn't like why are we giving Notre Dame like why are they the 8th seed? They should never be higher than 10 or 11 just because like
Yeah.
the committee should be like, yeah, join an effing conference. Like grow up, go join the ACC. Just figure it
Be a
out.
be a
Be a
big
man.
boy and go do it.
Be a
Yeah.
man.
Be a man. But no, you're 100% right. Like Notre Dame has the A&M win, and I'm not taking that away from them. But like I said on Tuesday night, they have the worst loss of anyone that's in the top
Yes.
15, not just the top 12, but the top 15. I'm stopping there because Kansas State lost to Houston, and that's
Yes.
probably comparable. So I don't want to go too far there. But like in the top 15, they have by far the worst loss of any of these teams. Like to me, if you're looking at like an Alabama who is 2 spots behind Notre Dame, Alabama's 2 losses going against Vanderbilt and losing to
Tennessee.
Tennessee. Yeah, sorry, totally blanked on it. I was about to say Georgia. I was like, no, they beat Georgia. Who the hell
Yeah.
was? But anyway, Tennessee. Like the combination of those 2 losses is still not as bad as losing to freaking Northern Illinois. Like it's
Yes.
just not. And so like it just feels like Notre Dame being Notre Dame, like the helmet logo is helping them so much right there. And I don't I do I guess my hope, my optimistic outlook, which I'm not the most optimistic person in the entire world, so like I wouldn't say that I think this is going to happen, but like my optimistic outlook would be they're basically trying to tell us that Notre Dame is going to make the playoff, which is something we've accepted and I think we are okay with. Like I don't think we have a problem with Notre Dame getting into the playoff at 11-1 if they, win out. But I do think that they're setting it up to be okay, we're going to have Notre Dame in here, but we can have teams jump them pretty easily. Like if Alabama wins out, goes and wins the SEC or something like, or goes to the SEC championship game and loses, we can still have them jump a Notre Dame. Like we can do whatever it takes to like kind of shuffle these things around Notre Dame, but we want to make sure that like in that shuffling they don't get pushed out. So maybe that's why they're at 8. Again, I'm just painting the optimistic scenario. I still think there's a chance that Notre Dame could end up being the 7th seed as well.
Let's go Black Knights. Let's
Yeah,
do it.
100%.
But I'll say this: there's two thoughts with Notre Dame. So if you look at who's in the top 25, they have one of the three worst losses.
Hmm.
They lost to Northern Illinois, Kansas State, who we'll talk about here in just a second, lost to Houston, and then Ole Miss lost to Kentucky. So
Yeah.
those are the three worst ones. There may be somebody else. I don't know, maybe Arkansas, Tennessee losing to Arkansas is not looking particularly great, but again, that team could go to a bowl game. Also, Northern Illinois is now bowling as of last night. So congratulations, Huskies.
They're still not good, but yes, they are
No,
bowling.
I don't think nobody in the MAC is good. I think Ohio U is probably the best team in that league.
Bowling Green's pretty good.
Yeah,
Bowling Green is I still like Bowling Green.
Bowling Green, Ohio U. Yeah, they're getting there. A lot of stuff down there for pouring out and bowling with the MAC from the last couple of nights. But
That's right.
the other thing that I really have an issue with Notre Dame, besides like just the whole loss thing and everything like that, is I just feel like everybody else has had opportunities to. First off, they make their own conference, they make their own
Yeah.
schedule. And Indiana can't control that. Georgia can't
Mhm.
control that. They, of anybody else, has the ability to control this. Yes, you can't. You mean you can't be like, okay, USC sucks or whatever that is. You got all these rivalries you got to put on there, but at some point, like Pete Bavacqua, you got to step up and make a better schedule if you're going to be independent in the new playoff format here. I just feel that like maybe this will work out for them this year, but in years down the line, they're not going to get the Notre Dame bump because they don't deserve it. And more importantly, I have no problem Notre Dame being in there under one condition, as long as the SEC gets four teams in. It'd be a shame if they only got three in. I feel that league is way too, that league is beating itself up. The Big Ten has just a bunch of mid beyond Indiana and Penn State. Like,
Mhm.
if the ACC gets to it, which the ACC should, I just don't, I feel that like the SEC doesn't need to be deprived of a fourth team. Like, they need to have at least four in here. If Notre Dame costs them, that's going to suck.
So the way I think Miami being at 9 is ludicrous in my opinion.
Yeah.
Or maybe 9 is fine and SMU should be higher, but having a 5 spot difference between those two teams is ludicrous in and of
Yeah.
itself. But the way it's currently set up, the ACC is only getting one team in. Because if Miami at 9 currently and they stay around that range, they go to the ACC championship game and lose to SMU, they're dropping out.
Right.
And conversely, like SMU's not making a jump if they lose the ACC championship game to Miami. So like we're very much set up to be four Big Ten, four SEC, Notre Dame, a G5, and then one from the Big 12, one from the ACC.
Yeah. The only way the Big 12 would get in is if BYU was 12 and 0 and they lost to Colorado. Like, that's the
Yeah,
only real feasible way where that could happen. I would say the Kansas State thing, you made a very astute point on the show. Like, what are we doing? Like,
I don't like it. Doesn't make any sense.
you're stealing Colorado's spot.
Yeah, 100. Like I Kansas State. What are like? I don't think this team is that good. Like I
No.
think like and I this is someone who wanted to be high on this team coming into the year. I believe I had K State winning the Big 12. So like the, this isn't a team that I don't want to believe in, but I've watched them and I don't believe in them. That's the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, you had them winning the Big 12. I had them getting in as an at-large. We were very high in this team, but Avery
Yeah,
Johnson's just got as much substance as a Tiger Beat magazine.
as Omar Bradley.
Uh, that's his nickname. That's his like when he go. That's on his fake ID, man. When he goes to Aggieville, it says Omar Bradley. I'm like, dude, you're
Omar
Avery
Bradley.
Johnson. Avery Omar Bradley Johnson. Omar Bradley Johnson. Avery
Oh my
Omar
God.
Bradley Johnson.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we got to do some graphic design is my passion. We'll talk about that after the year. I've got some ideas, and it's
Hell
that's a new
yes.
one.
Hell
Um,
yes.
and then you mentioned the SMU point here. It's the gap between them and Miami is not five teams. It's like they should be in the pole position to get to the ACC championship because I don't know, man, they effing are.
Yeah. You know what they haven't done? Lost in the ACC. You know what they did? They played a harder non-conference schedule than Miami did, and they lost to BYU, who is still undefeated at this point. And that was before a quarterback change. I don't understand the devaluing of SMU. I really don't. It doesn't make any sense to me because like it's I said earlier Miami shouldn't be 9. Maybe that's not the case. I think it probably more is that SMU should be higher than they are because and like I understand the complications of why you like I don't envy the selection committee in this
No,
job to be very clear because like are you really going to have SMU ahead of Georgia? Are you really going to have SMU ahead of Boise State at this point? And I get why you wouldn't at this point because like yes, the BYU loss doesn't look bad, but Boise State's one loss also doesn't look bad. You lost to Oregon by 3 points. Like that looks fine. That every team that has played Oregon has lost to them. Only one team has kept it within one score, and that was Ohio State. So like you're with Ohio State there. So like I don't envy them having to shuffle all of this around, but at the same time, SMU's resume is simply better than Miami's right now. It just is. The BYU loss is better than the Georgia Tech loss. They basically have congruent wins across the board, like in terms of the games that they've won. Except I would argue that SMU has looked more impressive outside of the Duke game, which, yes, if you look at those two head to head results, Miami blew them out. SMU needed Duke to basically shoot themselves in the foot and then go into overtime. But like, outside of that game, the results have been congruent. And that's like the one close game since they went to Kevin Jennings that SMU has played to this point. Whereas Miami, with this same core the entire year, they played like a dozen close, not a dozen, but four or five close games that could have gone either way. Like I just don't understand how we're valuing SMU or valuing Miami so much ahead of SMU when I truly think that SMU has the better resume.
It's just former group of five bias. They just don't feel like they
Yeah.
belong. They don't feel they have the right amount of players. And maybe they don't. Maybe they don't have enough people to win multiple playoff games, and that's okay. But like in the day and age of realignment, if somebody wants to level up and wants it really badly, like clearly the ponies do, it's going to work out for them. They're in a
Mhm.
hotbed in Dallas. They saw how much going to the Power Five has helped their rival TCU. Like
Mhm.
they're like we've seen how Baylor have success. Like why can't we do that? We're at essentially a Christian school in the state of Texas. Why can't we take
Yeah.
that level up? And they're playing like their rivals are now Cal and Stanford, and then they got to play in the ACC. Like this shouldn't be working out this well, but it is. And Brett Lashley is a really good head coach because I think he does more than hurry up and run.
Yeah, no, he does just a little bit more than that, I
And
think.
the last little bit here, we got to talk about my dogs here, and I'm gonna be try to like not be a homer or biased about it, but like the one thing that I keep going back to is like how many other teams that are ranked ahead of them would be better than them in this situation? Like, and I would say like, okay, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, and maybe Alabama. I think everybody else, if they would have played the schedule, would be 7-2 or worse.
Mhm.
And it's just like not all schedules are created fairly. I mean, even if Georgia were to lose to Tennessee, you still have quality wins over Clemson and Texas. That's still
Yeah.
better than probably what other, that's going to be better than what Penn State's done. It's still, I mean,
Yeah.
if Indiana goes and beats Ohio State and Oregon, yeah, that's comparable too. And they'll also be undefeated. So that's fair. But again, that seems like it's so far out from that happening, but it could. I sit there and I'm like, you're really going to take a team out there that could win a national championship from 11 seed. Don't you want to have a little bit more of a compelling component there? People hate Georgia. You want people to tune in and hate watch Georgia. I think it's going to go better than like, some podunk team from God knows where who's going to lose 41-10 at home.
No, yeah, I mean you're absolutely right. And when you say from where, you mean Happy Valley, Pennsylvania. But I do think that like I said on Tuesday night, like I think Georgia is probably close to being properly ranked because like I think it is like I'm with you in the idea that like they're better than the 12th best team in the country. Like I'm not going to argue that point. But I think the optics of how that Ole Miss game went, you do have to drop them kind of to the edge of the playoff picture, which they are. Obviously, they're the
Yeah,
first
it's
team out of the bracket. And that still affords them the opportunity. You beat Tennessee, you take care of this other marquee game on your schedule, which, if you're going to break it down, Georgia has five marquee games on their schedule this year. This Tennessee game decides whether you're below 500 or above 500 in those games. And if you're above 500 in those games, you're going to play your way into the
yeah,
playoffs. So, like, I see what the committee is doing, keeping them as the first team out because like with Alabama's win, with Ole Miss's win, you can't rightly put Georgia ahead of Ole Miss after Ole Miss just
right.
beat them the way that they did. Alabama obviously also has the head to head, but Alabama also just beat LSU into the ground on Saturday. So like I understand Georgia's placement, but in the grand scheme of things, this is better than the 12th best team in the country. And like that's where I push back on it, but like if I'm game theorying this out and like why the committee's putting Georgia where they are and like what can happen moving forward, 12 does make sense from that perspective. But again, it all comes back to the Penn State, the Notre Dame, the Miami of it all, where you're looking at them and you're like, if you put any of these teams up against Georgia, are we sure that they don't just get blown out of the building? Because I'm not.
The other thing that I was thinking about, yes, I think they're probably properly rated. I'm like, it's fine, but I'm sitting there, I'm like, this can't be the final result here. This is just kind of
No.
like, so they've played four marquee games up to this point. You know how many have been in Athens? Zero.
Yep.
And I understand that Clemson was in Atlanta, and that's kind of like a backyard thing there. But again, Clemson is not that far away from Atlanta, to be honest with you. It's probably the same amount of, it's roughly the same like drive. So
Yeah.
basically, so you've had to go and you have to win in Austin. Okay, that was difficult. You got to go to Tuscaloosa, you got to go to Oxford, and you got to play in the elements. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, Penn State lost at home to Ohio State that I plays with its food, and you couldn't score an offensive touchdown at home.
Yeah.
Like, I get it, but I'm sitting there saying, like, you can't tell me that Penn State's going to beat Georgia head to head if they were to play.
No,
Like,
you can't tell
no.
me that either. And like you look at this Penn State team, you look at that Ohio State game, like I legitimately wonder, and like we don't live in this world, so we'll never know, but like where would Penn State be ranked if they didn't have that pick six off of Will Howard early in the game that put them up 10-0? Because like that changes the perception of how people look at that game. Like if you're just box score scouting and you see 20-13 and you say, oh, they only lost by one score to Ohio State, like they put up a good fight. No, they didn't. For 40, 48, 49 minutes of that game, Ohio State just beat them into submission. Like it wasn't a close game. And Ohio State, yeah, they played with their food coming out of the gate. And that's the only reason the first 10 to 11 minutes weren't close.
I
And
would
like,
att
yeah, go ahead.
I would attest that we'd view them how we view SMU. That's
Yeah,
exactly how,
probably.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. But like, that's a 10 spot difference in the rankings. That doesn't make any damn sense.
No, I just I know I feel like I'm picking on them a bunch, and you know what? I don't care. I'm being a bully today, but like, there's everybody else that's up there has at least something.
Hmm.
Like, I don't have to rattle through it all, and we probably got to move on to the next topic here in a second. But like Tennessee, you did beat Alabama. Like,
Yeah.
okay, Notre Dame, you did beat A&M, and you beat Louisville. Okay, you got trying to think who else. Trying to think up there. Okay, obviously Ole Miss and Alabama, you beat Georgia. You've won other. You have pelts on the wall, and
Yeah.
Indiana doesn't have that, but the margin is like again they can't play their schedule, but like they've won dominantly. I think the Michigan State win was huge. I think beating
Hmm.
Michigan again, a lot of teams that you don't beat in the old Big Ten East, you just don't.
No,
So
100%.
and yeah, that's kind of why I think we were both pretty much down on Penn State, Notre Dame. It's like you're there, but I don't know if I like you there. I think you need to
Exactly, 100%.
move.
We need to shuffle some of this around.
And we got to shuffle some stuff around because they hand out for Nobel they hand out Nobel prizes for stuff like that. Let's break my brain, bro. I don't know if there's
So,
some I don't know if there's any what monkey frogs in a bag here.
no monkey frogs in a bag. I actually only have two scenarios this week because next week's when we're really going to get some chaos, but I am going to play into some chaos that could happen next week with our first one, which is coming out of the Big Ten. And I'm not going to ask you to project the entire playoff bracket, but I do want to know how you would see these three teams if the following results happen. Indiana beats Ohio State next week, then loses to Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. Oregon's obviously won in that scenario. Every other result within the college football playoff picture plays out as projected. So Georgia's favored against Tennessee. Georgia beats Tennessee. BYU wins out and wins the Big 12 championship. Like we don't get a whole lot of other chaos. Penn State doesn't lose again as well.
What
What
about
seed do you, oh, go ahead.
what about Miami SMU? Let's just say
Miami beats SMU. And
okay.
so Miami finishes 12-1 as an ACC champion. Oregon's obviously your Big Ten champion. Where do you seed Indiana? Where do you seed Ohio State?
Okay, so let's put Penn State at 14. No, no. So Oregon would be one.
Mhm.
Your two would be Texas, I would say, in that situation. Three, you'd probably go BYU because they'd be undefeated. Four would be Miami. So five, I think five would probably be I'd probably put Indiana at five. I feel like
Okay.
that would be because you'd be what 12-1 with a lost Oregon head to head over Ohio State, who'd have two losses at that point. Six, trying to think who would be the SEC runner up. I'm trying to think who would even get to
So this is spoiling a little bit of the next scenario, but it would be Alabama
yeah,
if we play out chalk the rest of the schedule.
so Alabama would get to Atlanta, and then they would
Mhm.
lose to to Texas.
Which would
Okay.
be their third loss.
Yeah. So honestly, six might even be well, six would probably be unfortunate. It would be Penn State,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
it sucks, but yes.
Seven, unfortunately, would probably be Notre Dame.
Hmm.
Eight, probably have Ole Miss.
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
Nine would probably be Georgia, I think.
Yeah.
10, TIN 10. Um, okay, so A&M would have three losses at that point too, because they
Hmm.
would lose to Texas. 10, run out of teams here pretty quickly. I would
Yeah.
say 10 would probably be Ohio State, then I think would be about
Yeah.
there. And then 11, your I think you'd probably have to put Alabama at 11 there over SMU because they're going to get punished for playing. I feel like Alabama would beat out SMU, and then 12 would probably be Boise State.
Okay. Okay. So let's flip that on its head and say this is a on the fly pivot. Let's say Alabama beats Texas in the or in the SEC championship game. So that gives Alabama a top four seed. Where is Ohio State the 11 seed in that point?
They're still in. I would probably say you would slot everything down, and I think you would put Texas at six. I think
Okay.
Indiana would still be five. I think that would probably just to keep it simple. I think that would probably be the way it would go.
I think that's probably right. All right. Now see scenario number two, which we've touched on a little bit of this, but we get chalk for the rest of the SEC season. Georgia beats Tennessee. Texas beats A&M. No more upsets occur in the SEC. So I found a website that plays out the tiebreaker so you don't have to do the math, which is just a beautiful thing. I will send that to you after this podcast so we're not sitting here trying to figure out these tiebreakers in our own head. We've got something that does it and explains what tiebreaker is used. Beautiful tool. That would give us a Texas Alabama SEC championship game, as I just mentioned. Let's say Texas wins 41-28 in that game.
Okay.
What needs to happen outside of the SEC for Alabama to not make it in as a three-loss team?
Okay. So chalk everywhere else. So essentially chalk is basically what we're getting at here,
Yeah.
which is good. Okay.
I honestly at this point I feel like chalk is the most chaotic scenario. Interestingly enough.
In this situation, Ohio State beats Indiana, right?
Yes.
Okay. Your one is Oregon. Your two is Texas. Your three is BYU. Your four is Miami. Your
Hmm.
group of five at 12 would be Boise State. I don't know. They may go up actually, now that I think about that, but they're in. Those are the five AQs. So your six would be it was your six would be because then Ohio State would lose again to Oregon.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't even think who would your six, who would your five even be? God. So at your five, that is so stupid. That is so effing stupid. Your five is Notre Dame. I am so mad. I am so mad.
I honestly wonder if they would just put Ohio State at five, so Notre Dame is not the five, quite frankly.
Okay, so okay, you want to put Ohio State at five? Let's just do it.
Yeah, like it. Yeah, just
Okay,
because I
you're
don't want to feel dirty enough to put Notre Dame at five.
okay. Ohio State five, Notre Dame six. That's
Yeah.
about as seven. Seven at that point is probably Penn State.
Yeah.
Your eight, your eight would be Ole Miss.
Hmm.
Your nine, I think they would put Georgia there. 10 would be Indiana.
Hmm.
Then 11 would be Alabama wouldn't make it. It would be Tennessee.
Yeah, I know. And so there is a world where honestly we almost might be at the point where like Alabama needs some chaos to not make the SEC championship game. Like they need that to happen in order to essentially avoid that third loss. Like I think in the SEC right now, like all of these two-loss teams, like there's so many two-loss teams coming into this where like and we could have another one if Georgia beats Tennessee, which throws a whole other monkey wrench into all of this. But like, if all of that happens and we have all these two lost teams, you bet you're basically left with if Texas beats Texas A&M. Texas is the only team in the SEC that can truly afford a loss in the SEC championship game and basically be guaranteed a spot in the college football playoffs still at that point.
So I think what you're implying is that head to head, if it's both 10 and 2, Alabama is going to get in over Ole Miss. That just seems like the way that
Mhm.
that would go. And that's okay. So Ole Miss's path to Atlanta, same with Georgia's, is about none. So that's
Yeah,
okay. I have a way that Alabama gets in. That requires A&M beating Texas. So
right.
you'd have an immediate rematch, and the loser of that game's out. And then at that point, Alabama gets in at 10 and 2.
Yeah,
Alabama would probably be the the second highest ranked SEC team beyond the winner of and Texas A&M. That's how I think that they would get in. You would also probably would want to have you would probably need Indiana or Penn State or Notre Dame to lose again.
yeah.
In addition to Indiana losing to Ohio State, and also you could probably want Ohio State to lose to Michigan. So I think that that would help.
No, 100%. Like it's not, it's not written in stone, but like a lot of those results you just mentioned needing to happen are not likely. You know what I
No.
mean? So like I do think that like there is a world. I'll have some more chaos cooked in, but I started looking into Alabama and like looking at the SEC and it was very interesting with how this conference is cannibalizing itself right now. And like not in the worst way. They're still probably going to get four teams into the playoff, but like with the way that all these teams are beating each other up, I guess is the better way to say it. You're There's a lot of them that don't control their own destiny at this point, quite frankly.
In terms of like getting to the playoff, if you
Yeah.
will.
Yeah, like 100 like or well I think it comes to the idea of like because like regardless of how the rest of the season plays out in the SEC, we're going to be going down the tiebreaker list to figure out who the hell is going to be playing in Atlanta. And when you start to do that, like the fact that the going to the SEC championship game could be a detriment and like you may not have like total control over like how you get there. Like it's not like you're not going to be able to quote unquote play your way. It's not going to be like a win and in type of situation outside of Texas and Texas A&M. Like you're mostly just looking at like these teams not wanting to go to the SEC championship game, which might be the first negative thing I have to say about the 12 team playoff. That's kind of messed up if that's what you're hoping to get in the playoff is that you're not playing for your conference championship.
Yeah. It's it happened last year. It happens. It's again, we got to get uniformity. Every Power Four team needs to be the same size. Every team needs to play, 9 games. They need to
Yes.
have a cross conference rival that would keep essentially clean old fashioned hate alive.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think who would North Carolina's be? What would be a fun like rivalry that would be good that doesn't have one. You put a North Carolina versus you play Tennessee. That's who you play.
I like that. I like that. Or actually the more obvious one, but they would already have one. Never mind. I was gonna say South Carolina is an obvious one, but South Carolina has Clemson, so never
Yeah,
mind. But like that's also an obvious one.
that would be good. And I don't know if it's obvious. I mean, come on, guys. I'm a respected member of the scientific community. I've been published in 4 journals. It don't mean enough. Yes, E equals MC Hammered, I guess, at this point. But Tennessee at Georgia is the best game of the week. There's not a
Hmm.
lot of really compelling games on the schedule, which we could talk a little bit more about that game. Obviously, I've got that in JLN, so I'm not going
As
to make
do
a pick
I.
at
Yeah.
that point. But these are that's also the game that you and possibly me will be coming to you live for after on Saturday. I've got a wrap party for the Arizona State podcast. Her the show she's working on is finishing up, so I gotta look very dapper. So
Hey, if you do come on, you'll be dressed to the nines. I will not be. I can assure you of
that's fine, dude. I'll be looking so good, and my takes will be so mid, and it'll be great.
that.
But these are the type of weeks where chaos happens. Like
Oh
this is
yeah.
just we're so due for it.
No, 100%. Like you look at some of the games on the slate this week and like everyone's kind of overlooking Texas at Arkansas.
Yeah,
That Fayetteville is not a fun place to play for anyone.
they,
And like I do think Texas probably wins that game. Don't get me wrong, but like not guaranteed. You look at again another one where I'm pretty sure that the favored higher ranked team is going to win, but like Oregon has to go play at Camp Randall. Yes, they handled Maryland last week, but like Wisconsin's a better team than Maryland. Camp Randall's a much tougher place to play. Things could get hairy if you're trying to just walk this into the season, especially with a bye week looming next week for Oregon. Maybe you sleepwalk a little bit in that game. Um,
Utah,
Utah,
Colorado is another.
Colorado.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like that's one. Talking about the G5 picture, we got Tulane Navy, which is an interesting game for the AAC picture, what that's going to look like. Just
Virginia, Notre Dame, that's another one too. Boston
Virginia,
College,
Notre Dame. Yeah.
Boston College, SMU. Definitely not Louisville, Stanford. Not that that game matters.
No, but Boise State going to a San Jose State team that's played really well this year. You've got Kansas and BYU in Provo this week. Like there's a lot of chaos that could like we're not necessarily forecasting it, but you look at it and like one of these games is going to go sideways. I don't know which one, but one of them is going to go sideways.
I don't think it's going to be the one in Athens, but the other ones will. That's okay, and we'll talk
Yeah.
about that game as well. But I think to me, when I try to explain to people who really love the NFL, like why I just like college football more. I love the Falcons and I like college football. That's kind of in
Yeah.
Georgia. That's it's the same sort of thing. It's I just kind of feel that like the even now like every loss matters. It's like, oh, could Georgia really have a third? And the Falcons just suffered their fourth. And I'm like, yeah, they're probably going to win the division and be the four, 3 or 4 seed. Like
Yeah.
when
Division's
you had,
terrible.
yeah, it's not good. But like the chaos sort of component there with college football is always present because it's 18 to 23-year-olds or 18 to
Yeah.
27-year-olds. Uh, even if they got a fully formed brain, their body's failing them on the reg here. But like when I go across the board, it's just these weekends, it's like anything can happen. We're looking at every these windows going down to the wire, like, oh my God, is Kansas State really going to lose to Houston? Well, they do.
Yeah, they do. And I mean, like we also like we're actually losing out on a potential chaos game because Pitt decided that it stopped wanting to play good football, and we're getting Pitt Clemson
hmm
this week, which was supposed to be
Yes.
a marquee game, and now no one's going to watch that game at all.
Yeah, Arizona K-State's the same sort of thing too. If K-State just had its S together a little bit more, that'd be a potential one too. They're both 7-2.
No, 100%. I'm actually really excited for that one because I think Arizona State can get them. Like I just want Kansas State the hell out of the college football playoff top 25, and like I think this is a good game to be able to do
We
that.
were so wrong about our boy Kenny Dilly.
Yeah, we should have had more faith in our best good friend Kenny D.
Just because he can't walk too good doesn't mean he can't coach too good. He can.
That's right.
But yeah, this I guess I would say with the marquee game, maybe I got a thought or two there, and then we'll move on to our next topic just because like we got some stuff to get to. But
Mhm.
I just have this belief that the home crowd will be in Georgia's favor in a way that like they haven't been in the
Yeah.
other games. And I feel that like with Nico potentially his status for the game is up for debate. He had a concussion that he got pulled out from. I've seen things say like, oh, he's not playing. I think Chris Felica said he's not playing.
Yeah.
Shannon Terry said he's playing, which maybe I don't know what's the strong three you want to do. And then Pete Thamel's like right down the middle. So where are we even going here?
Yeah,
There was
we don't know what we're doing with Nico.
there may have been a report that came out last night that I think about it.
It's all good. So let me tell you one of my big thoughts about this game, which I think is pretty important for what we're looking at here. So last week going into that Ole Miss Georgia game, I said that basically that game is going to be decided in the trenches. In my opinion, it was because Ole Miss absolutely dominated up front on both sides of the ball. They handled Georgia's defensive line way better than I thought they were going to, and they made Carson Beck's life a living hell. Well, I think this game is probably not too dissimilar in terms of what we're going to see at the lines of scrimmage. I think Tennessee's defensive front, one of the best in the country, can attack Georgia and make Carson Beck uncomfortable. There's no doubt about that. I have a little less faith in Tennessee, not necessarily blocking Georgia. I think that's possible. But I think in Athens, we see a better effort from this Georgia pass rush. And I think that more importantly, I trust either a banged up Nico or Gaston Moore, a freshman, a whole hell of a lot less than I do Jackson Dart to be able to make the
Yeah,
plays to take advantage of that. The other factor in this brought up to me by Reed Wallach, which I hadn't fully considered. Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann kind of have Josh Heupel's number. They have
yeah,
figured out this veer and shoot offense. Do you want to hear the point totals for Tennessee against Georgia in the past 3 years when Josh Heupel's been there?
I would love to.
I'm sure you would. In 2021, Georgia 41, Tennessee 17. In 2022, Georgia 27, Tennessee 13. In 2023, Georgia 38, Tennessee 10. They haven't scored more than 17 points against this defense. And that includes the Hendon Hooker season. Like they still couldn't get it done against this defense. And it feels like for whatever reason, I'm not gonna pretend to be the biggest X's and O's guy in the world, but for whatever reason, something about this defense that Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann run has the ability to just shut down what they're trying to do with this Tennessee offense. And now you have a Tennessee offense that I do think prior to the concussion, Nico was showing a lot of signs of improvement, but it's still not the peak efficiency that we've seen from this Tennessee offense. So like
Right.
I have I think this game is going to be incredibly low scoring. Like if both like I think it could be legitimately whoever gets to 20 wins this game.
I think that's totally within the realm of possibility here. I would say though, like the one thing I probably overlooked the most with the Ole Miss game is just how good of a passer Jackson Dart is.
Yeah.
And he was banged up too. It didn't look as he couldn't really put much into his ball. Didn't matter. Georgia was just playing with a stick in the back, in the outfield like they're 7 years old, not going to get the ball. It was just it was
Yeah.
utterly maddening. But I just feel that like Nico's not as polished. I
Yeah.
mean, they both can run pretty well, but like again, this is at home. Georgia's had Heupel's number. This is something that like, and I don't see Tennessee fans say like, "Oh, we're going to go in here and smoke you," like a couple years ago, and then like
No.
the Eric Ainges of the world aren't making themselves look stupid, but they could be doing it now. It's totally fine. I think both teams realize what's at stake. If you win this game, you're making the playoff. If you lose this game, it's going to be really hard.
Yeah, like Tennessee needs everything to break right if they lose this game to get in. Georgia, I think like I don't even know if everything breaks right that they're getting in with 3 losses, quite frankly. Like I do think a 3 loss team will make the playoff eventually. I just don't have a good feeling that it's going to be this year because you have teams like Indiana and BYU that have kind of thrown a monkey wrench into this entire thing. And so like I don't think this is the year that you want to be a 3 loss team because like in some years, yes, Georgia had 3 losses with those 3 losses being what they are if they were to lose this game that would absolutely be able to be enough to get them in there because you still have the Texas win, you still have the Clemson win in dominant fashion. So like Georgia could this is like a full blown eliminator. It's basically like a 98% eliminator for Tennessee.
Yes, I'm right there with you. And when Josh Heupel walks into a steakhouse and they tell him to take his Letterman's jacket off, he says this. I was plumb surprised.
I was plumb surprised, I'll tell you.
Yes, we are going to do the Admiral Akbar. It's a trap game of the week. And we're going to go with Kansas BYU for this because
Oh
you're
hell yeah,
right.
we are. Hell yeah,
Kansas
we
looks
are.
like Kansas and BYU hasn't lost yet. And if Kansas plays like that, they might lose. Kansas is like 3-6. BYU is like 9-0. I think BYU is only favored by like 3.5 points or something. Really,
It was
yeah.
it was 2.5 on Tuesday. I haven't looked at the line today, but it was 2.5 on Tuesday. So
So yeah, I'm if it would be a bad loss if BYU lost this.
oh yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Like one that could potentially if like even if they lose this, they're still probably going to the Big 12 championship game if they can take care of the rest of their schedule. So like it doesn't like eliminate them from getting into the college football playoff or anything like that. But if you were to go to the Big 12 championship game after losing this game and then lose again to Colorado, it's probably enough fodder to be like, yeah, you're not in the 12-team field. Like, get the hell out of here. Because like this is a bad loss. This is a loss you can't take. Even understanding that like the iteration of Kansas that we're currently watching is not the iteration we saw for the first 6 weeks of the season.
No.
Like, this is a much better Kansas team right now than what we saw earlier in the season. They got Highshaw back in the backfield with Devin Neal. So like you've got that 1-2 punch, 1-2-3 punch if you include Jalen Daniels' legs, who looks healthy coming up. That's right. Three
Yeah.
punches. Me
Gotta love being on video. It's great.
me hitting you, you hitting the floor, and me hitting never mind.
Me taking a Dorothy Mantooth out for a nice seafood dinner, never calling her again. That's what's up.
Dorothy Mantooth is a saint. But no, oh my God. But no, like this is a game you can't lose if you're BYU, and it's a game you absolutely can lose because there's two things that stand out to me in this matchup. One is that BYU's run defense is not particularly good, and as I just mentioned, Kansas has three ways they can beat you on the ground with their legs. They don't really reel off explosive plays with that, but they reel off like 5 to 6 yards of carry, which you know what that does? That gets you a first down every single time. So like I think that they can move that. And then what it also does for Kansas is it sets up explosive plays in the passing game. I was looking back at the Iowa State game between that Kansas just won last week. Kansas only completed 12 passes in that game. Jalen Daniels still threw for 290 plus yards because his receivers averaged 24.3 yards per reception. They were just like chucking it downfield when the run set it up. And the thing that stood out to me is BYU's passing defense has actually done a really good job this season of limiting explosive passing plays. I believe they're top 20 in the country. Iowa State was also top 20 in the country in that metric. Kansas, when this offense is functioning, really kind of dismisses all the metrics because Lance Leipold is good enough of a coach to be able to set all of this up and make things happen the way he wants it to. I do think that BYU is going to be able to score on Kansas's defense because as good as Kansas is playing right now, their defense still sucks. Like that's just what it is.
Yeah,
But BYU, you look at this offense and what they've done. Jake Retzlaff, phenomenal player, has had a phenomenal season to this point. He really also doesn't have a problem putting the ball in harm's way. And Kansas, the one strength of this defense is their secondary. They have like that's why they get in as much trouble. Honestly, this entire Kansas defense, as a Cowboys fan, I can attest to this. They play like Trevon Diggs,
I
where
know.
Trevon Diggs can cover anyone, but he's a high risk, high reward player where he's going to take a gamble and he's going to get burned probably 40 to 50% of the time. Now, the other 50% of the time, like he's going to make a play and he's probably going to lead the league in interceptions if he's doing that more often than not, which we've already seen him do. So, like, that's how this Kansas defense plays. And if you can score on top of that and you can come up with one of those plays where you come up and you pick off Retzlaff, that could be the difference in this entire game.
Totally. I think that like I was just thinking about this. This is I broke my own brain trying to figure this out. I've got the perfect scenario for the Big 12.
Okay.
Okay, so everything you said, everything about Kansas being, opportunistic on defense, they get the pick, they play enough offense, they beat BYU.
Mm-hmm.
You know what BYU plays coming up? Arizona State.
Oh, they do. Oh, yeah, they do.
And let's just say that Arizona State wins out and they're 10-2. So that would require them beating K-State, BYU, and then Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona sucks. They're going to win that game. And if they win
Yes.
those two games, and let's just say Kansas State wins Farmageddon.
Okay.
So that would mean, and if BYU loses to Arizona State too, that would mean your Big 12 championship game would probably could possibly be Colorado Arizona State for the pregame. Let's go.
The pregame. So I'm actually going to this simulator right now to make sure those tiebreakers work out. So let's go that looks
Please.
good. And then we've got that. We'll go
You may need to
there.
throw another Texas Tech loss in there too to probably help if you needed to.
I think we can manage that. Actually, I don't know if we can. Texas Tech has Oklahoma State and West Virginia left. I don't
They could lose
know.
to West Virginia.
All right. Yeah, it is in Morgantown, so we'll give them that loss. Then Colorado winning that one. BYU. Okay, so we're gonna calculate the standings. Oh yeah, if that
Yeah,
scenario plays out, we do have Arizona State. Oh,
Colorado.
that's beautiful.
Yeah, Arizona State, I think currently has a 2.6% chance of making the playoff according to FPI. And if I look down at what Colorado's at 24-7, which is really good actually. I would say like up right above them is like SMU at 40.1, and then everybody else is like 62 or better, which would
Yeah.
be 629's Miami. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 13 teams have a better than a 62% chance of getting in, which is shouldn't be possible, but it is because only 12 can get in.
So I will say like the one thing that is always interesting to me about those percentages based on FPI is like Colorado has such a high chance because like but it's not 50% chance because when you look at it they are obviously like they can't slip up again to get to the Big 12 championship game. But if they get to the Big 12 championship game, they have a higher rated FPI than BYU right now. So they would in theory by FPI be favored in the Big 12 championship game. So like the reason they're below, 30-40% is because they don't have any margin for error.
Right.
But the reason that they're as high as they are is because if they, avoid getting upset to this point, they're going to be favored in the Big 12 championship game.
Yes, I'm looking at this. So make sure I don't have this for JLN, BYU, Kansas. That is not that's a different sheet. Okay, we are going down here. BYU, Kansas. I do not have this in JLN.
I do not either. I had it, but then I remembered it was the trap game of the week. And so I said, you know what, I'll just pick it there and I'll put another game in there so we can talk about more games.
Who do you got for this one?
Oh, it's rock chalk, baby. Jayhawks are taking it home this one.
Antonio is going to Potter Lake. Let's go. Let's go rock chalk, brother. Let's
Let's
do
go.
it. What Antonio told me the last time we were at Potter Lake was he said, Landfill could eat a ton, but he could also love a ton. We are going to the Antonio Banderas Bowl of the week. We are going under the bridge with Barry Badgernath, Antonio, and the other Antonio, for Nebraska USC.
Oh yeah, we are. Oh my God, what an awful, awful game.
It's going to be really horrible. Make sure I've got this right. 'Cause Antonio the problem is he keeps changing locales. So where were we at? Where were we at last week for Antonio, if you remember?
Oh God, where did we
Shania
go?
Twain. We did Shania Twain, Antonio Banderas Bowl of the Week. It's in my notes. I'll find it here. Antonio, Bob Marley, no, Shania Twain, Antonio. Yeah, we were at Antonio, we were at Cal Wake Forest. Okay, that was where we
Oh
were.
God, of course, of course.
The so he was not successful in
No.
getting Justin Wilcox to defect. Cal Golden Bears won. It was the hot air balloon, wasn't it? And it didn't work.
Yeah, no, it didn't work. There were cigarette holes all in it. I told Antonio not to smoke. There were cigarette holes all in him because, again, he is an inflatable doll. And like, yeah, he couldn't get it taken off. And then Justin Wilcox realized that, Cal had a chance to win that game, and that just really completely killed all the chances of Antonio being able to do anything. So he just went more heaters.
Yeah, I just told him like, when you're in the cigarette capital of the world, man, like it's just you're not flying anywhere. You're going to be coughing. And I would also say that like I did have to tell him like we're just not going to be able to get Justin to defect. I don't think he wants to at this point.
No, he really doesn't. He doesn't seem like he does. I mean, it's hard to talk to Antonio right now because he sounds like Derek Zoolander after coming out of one day at the coal mines and just I think I'm getting the black lung. And so like it's hard to carry on a conversation right now, but hey, the good news is we're going to LA this week and the smog definitely won't hurt that at all.
Now, I was thinking about this. Remember we were back in the mines there at Homer Hickam High School? There's one guy that came down there in a wife lover shirt and really nice blue suspenders with a pickaxe. That was Antonio before we met him.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he was the Ike Bukowski minus the death.
He was working for the weekend. I'll tell you that much. That lover boy.
That's right.
So the reason we want to go to this game is because when we went to Nevada not Nevada, for Albuquerque for Wyoming, New Mexico, and he had to go to, Yoda, which is that's what he
Mhm.
calls Bronco Mendenhall.
Yes.
He says, you must return to under the bridge. And we said, we're not going back to Athens for Bulldog, Bulldog. That's already happened. I'm like, do you know any other bridges? He's like, see.
C. C, no bulldog.
So he's distantly related to the um, the Greek version of Antonio, which would be Anthony Kiedis. They're about the
Right.
same age, I think. They're both like 60 something.
Yeah, 100%. One of them realizes they're 60 something, the other one does not.
So they went to the bridge, and
Hmm.
under the bridge was Barry Badgernath and Florida Antonio with a lot of nice looking Florida men.
A lot of nice looking for
But for real though, when we did come up with the concept of Antonio, I think this scene from Beerfest was a very informative part in us helping to develop Antonio. And this,
100%. Absolutely.
so Antonio doesn't know a lot, but he knows money and he knows how much what it costs on a Barry Badgernath's board.
I have no comment. I'm pleading the fifth on that one. Jesus.
Uh, so the other thing is he's convinced that either Matt Rule or Lincoln Riley go to this bridge too.
Oh, 100%. They absolutely do. He also did tell me in between his coughs that he is a little sad that we're going here because there's no bulldog. There's no dog in this game. Matt Rule's not a dog. Lincoln Riley's not a dog. Like there's no dogs in this game.
No, the Antonio he does want to dress up there. So he's either going to dress up in like Trojan regalia or in the what little red costume. Hey, bud.
He's gonna dress up as Trojan man for sure. It's happening.
Nothing levitated.
Yeah.
Jesus. But this is are there two more unlikable head coaches in the Big Ten? The answer is no. Maybe
PJ
James
Fleck would
Franklin.
like a word. James Franklin
Yeah,
would like a word, but like this is still probably top two. But like those two are close. They're knocking on the door.
they're both what like 5-4, I think, or no, USC is 4-5.
Yeah, USC's 4-5. USC like flirting with not making a bowl game. Also, let me get this off my chest. This is me just being analytical. Why is USC almost a 10-point favorite in this game? Well, USC is not good. They should not be a
No,
10-point favorite against anybody. What are we doing here?
it doesn't make any sense. It's the same question I asked myself under this bridge. What are we doing here?
Why are we here? Yeah, it's very much bridge behavior. The odds makers are under the bridge clearly and not paying attention to college football. What is this?
I don't get it. Who do you think is better at playing quarters on top of a car hood? Matt Rule or Lincoln Riley?
It's for sure Matt Rule. Come on, Lincoln Riley's never like Lincoln Riley might break a nail doing that. Like we can't be doing that. And he's got to keep the perfectly manicured nails going.
You ask Lincoln Riley how much a banana costs. He says $10. He's never seen a quarter in his life.
No, not even a little bit.
They don't use currency in Muleshoe, Texas. They use something else that we can't really talk about. They use
Yes,
mules.
correct. The same currency used under the bridge.
I was not ready for that. No. But I'm sitting here and I'm like, these are two schools that thought that all of their wildest dreams were going to happen in the Big Ten, and it hasn't happened yet. That's like Nebraska's didn't understand that like leaving the Big 12 or Big 8, like losing Texas and their recruiting pool, like it's like
Yeah.
you're not going to do it. Yeah, we have a really cool weight room. I'm like, yeah, you got all these really nice things, but everybody thinks you're an a-hole.
Yeah, correct. 100%.
And
And like unfortunately Dylan Raiola might also think that because there's a little bit of a rumbling that he might not be in Lincoln next year.
of course, the guy's never had an original thought in his effing life. Where do you think he would go?
Honestly, the place I'm looking at is Michigan. I think that would make a lot of sense.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah, let's go there and enjoy the bet call. Let's do that. Yeah.
100%. Look, hey, if you wanna be just a Patrick Mahomes knockoff, like no better place to lean into that than Michigan.
That would make sense too. Imagine like what NFL team would draft him in 3 years? Like he's going to be a third round pick because he's going to think he's a first round pick and completely misread the room. So he's going in there like he's less self aware than Russell Westbrook or Spencer Rattler before he turned 21 years old.
100%. Yeah, he's what's the name of the Netflix show where Spencer Rattler looked like an a-hole? I can't remember the name of it.
It's unsomething. It's uncommitted or something. Maybe
Yeah,
that's
something like
a
that. I can't remember, but God, he was just the biggest a-hole in the entire world in that show. But no, I think like I can see him going to like
I have the team.
hit me with it because I'm running through options and there's some.
He's gonna go to the Jets, dude. Are you kidding?
That was what I just thought about was the Jets. It would make a lot of sense.
Yes, he goes there. He's like the backup to Aaron Rodgers and stuff. And it's just they're going like 4 and like 13 every year, and then he goes in there, he wins one game, and then he just does like he also goes in there, he says, yeah, I don't think 9/11 was real. It didn't happen. And then just and it's the entire fan base. Fireman Ed comes down there and just like I don't even know what throws at him. Throws his hat at him.
Yeah, like he seems definitely impressionable enough to like just basically turn into Aaron Rodgers, but like 23 years old.
What would you say like when they introduce him on Monday Night Football? Because they'll definitely put or Sunday Football, they'll definitely put the Jets on there. Dylan Raiola, online classes.
University of Phoenix. We love those fighting Phoenix.
Dylan Raiola, your mom's house. uh,
Oh my God.
and if Antonio did it, it was Antonio Banderas, Bulldog,
Bulldog. Oh, you went to Georgia? No, just Bulldog.
Michigan man, Bulldog.
Michigan man.
Okay, okay, bye. Then Lincoln Riley, man. Like we're kind of entering a very probably the last little bit here before we move on to our final topic here, unless you got anything else. It's
No.
like besides Antonio wanting to play quarters and hang out with Anthony Kiedis and get highlights information. That's what he likes learning things. He just doesn't retain anything. That's why,
Correct. Yes.
that's get Beerfest equals MC Hammer. I can only learn him when both of us are drunk.
That's right.
But anyway, with Lincoln Riley and the hot seat stuff, we still don't have a power four coach out unless we'll probably get somebody fired today because it's Thursday and that's just would be ridiculous. But
100%.
like I think the hottest seat right now is technically Sam Pittman. I'm like, that doesn't feel right.
No, he's gonna make a bowl game. They still have a G5 game remaining on their schedule. They'll
Yeah,
win that and they'll go 6-6. And like you're not firing Sam Pittman after six and
it's
six.
same thing with like Neil Brown and Dave Random. Like they're gonna go to bowl games. It's just the math's there. And then you start going down. If Lincoln Riley goes 5-7 or 4-8, I mean, Jen Cohen's got to do it. You got to
Yeah,
reset it.
you got to reset it. And like Jen Cohen's job could also be made easier, quite frankly. The Bears have an open offensive coordinator position right now. You know who did pretty damn well with Caleb Williams? Lincoln Riley. Do I think that would work out? No, but like I do think that's a logical conclusion that you could come to. I also think that the Dallas Cowboys probably going to have a whole staff they're trying to fill out this offseason. Jerry Jones is going to hire a big name. Lincoln Riley would be a splash. Lincoln Riley would get eyes, and that's all Jerry Jones cares about. So I think this is I don't even know if Lincoln Riley gets fired at USC. I think we see him just leave for the NFL, quite frankly.
I I hope the Falcons are just good enough that Zach Robinson doesn't leave because he's at like the next tier of OCs beyond Ben Johnson and Bobby Sloak. I tell you what, Ben Johnson wants the Bears job. If you take that job, you are a moron. Like you are a I can't like
Yeah.
you play them in division. You know how dysfunctional they are. Like go literally anywhere else. So Dan Campbell doesn't sit in your head, man.
I want him to go to the Dallas Cowboys.
Yes.
However, speaking of jobs, I wouldn't take the Dallas Cowboys job. If I'm Ben Johnson, stay the hell away from Jerry Jones.
You take the Saints job.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like I think the Saints, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not looking at their cap numbers right now, but I think like you kind of have to ride out next year with Derek Carr, but after that you kind of hit the reset button. And like we've seen the Saints team with Derek Carr healthy at least be passable. Like they're not good. But they're not a dumpster fire by any stretch of the imagination either.
I think the only problem is Mickey Loomis can do no wrong and he can clearly do no right. So you have to basically have some head coach who doesn't respect himself, like Doug Peterson, to go there.
Yeah, someone is going to tuck their tail between their legs.
Mike McCarthy, come on down.
Oh yeah, Mike McCarthy. There's your next job.
You want a job?
I would love to coach a 7-10 team, brother.
What's a Z job? What's a Z job? If you have to ask, you can't afford it. Yes, we are moving on to some just like Nip King. God, that was an amazing transition. I've not been good today, but
It
that
was
was a good
good.
one. Yes,
Hold
we
on.
are.
Do you have Nebraska-USC in JLN?
I do not, I don't think. So I got to say that too. Nebraska at JLN. No, I don't. Since I'm never picking Lincoln Riley to win a game again, give me the Huskers to go bowling.
Okay, love it, love it. I do have it in JLN, but it is going to be the first one. So go ahead.
Yes, and then also Admiral Akbar. In case I forgot, I'm picking Kansas. Unless I already
Yeah,
said that, I can't really remember.
I
But
think we both rock chalk, so we're good to go.
yes, we rock some chalk here. Who's got some scar tissue that you wish you saw?
Oh, that's Nebraska and USC. A lot of scar tissue between these two programs. And it
Oh
fed
yeah,
in nicely because it was the first song and we just talked about this game. I'm also going with Nebraska, dude. Like, again, why is USC a heavy favorite in this game? On Stacking the Box College Football Show, this was my upset pick of the week. Nebraska's plus 270 on the money line. That's like, I'm not saying Nebraska's been playing well. They have not, for sure. But this Nebraska team has been playing as well or if not better than this USC team. I don't care that this game is LA. You know when LA is not a home field advantage for USC? When the Trojans are 4-5. There's not going to be much of a home field advantage in this game. USC can't do the things that cause Nebraska problems, namely rush the passer really well, nor can they block Nebraska's guys up front. You're starting Jade Maeva in this game if you're Lincoln Riley. So maybe there's a little bit of a quarterback balance, but like I also think that there's a reason Miller Moss won the job. There's a reason that Miller Moss has been your quarterback this entire season, and you're just now making this move. It reeks of desperation. I think that Jade Maeva might have a little bit of a wake up call from playing in the Mountain West to now playing the athletes that Nebraska has up front. Give me Nebraska all day, bro.
was thinking about this from USC. The fact that Matt Leinert's son Cole is committed to SMU
That's
over
sick.
USC,
That's
that
sick.
says I would venture to guess Leinart still lives in Southern California at some point, but like you're not going to go play at USC. I figured that that would be an opportunity to go there. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it was kind of like maybe Cole Leinert's not as good as his dad was coming out of Modern Day, but like he could have gone to Colorado, he could have gone to SMU. The fact he's not going to USC is an indictment on Lincoln Riley, and I'll say it at that.
100%. Absolutely.
And with the birds, I'll share this lonely view. I've got Clemson at Pitt because these teams have scar tissue, led by sarcastic Mr. Know-it-alls and Dabo
Yes, they
Swinney and
do.
Pat Narduzzi. The lonely views they share is Dabo Swinney on not using the portal or NIL, and Pat Narduzzi in terms of just being a good neighbor, I guess.
100%.
And give me Pitt.
Okay. Hell yeah.
Okay. So if you like pleasure spiked with pain, which game is your airplane?
Oh, pleasure spiked with pain. That's the Washington State Cougars plight right now because it's a damn good football team. This is a football team that's probably going to go 11-1. The pain is that they're going to go nowhere near the college football playoff because they're not in a conference. No one wanted them to be there. So, like, enjoy your season. You get absolutely nothing for it. So, they're playing at New Mexico this week. Washington State's going to beat the absolute piss out of New Mexico. Broncos, big bad boys, are not going to have much of a fighting chance.
No, they're not. Not at all. This is my game, Tennessee at Georgia, because I like pleasure spiked with spiked with
Oh,
pain.
yeah.
And give me the dogs, man. That's all I gotta say.
Okay. Let's
Need
go.
it. Boys need it. Carson Beck. Um, they're literally, I know you've been on the road, but like they will literally tow your Lambo and throw it into the middle of Coney River if you don't win this game.
100%.
Um, what game can't stop?
So this is Tennessee, Georgia, because of what we talked about with it basically being a CFP eliminator. And the one line is can't tell if I'm a kingpin or a pauper because I can't tell if either of these teams are a kingpin or a pauper right now with how erratic they've been.
Oh no, just screw that up. That's give it away, dude.
Oh, I'm in different order. I
Okay,
apologize.
okay, give it away. You got give it away with Tennessee, Georgia. We'll do that one now. Okay.
I apologize. Forgive me. I'm looking at the wrong part of the rundown. Anyway, I'm giving it away. Can't tell if I'm a kingpin or a pauper. That's Tennessee, Georgia.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go Tennessee. And I,
Okay.
I don't mean to do it to you. Maybe it's a little of an emo hedge because I was so high on Georgia and I feel betrayed coming into this game. But I do think that what I saw Ole Miss's defensive front do last week really worries me. And Carson Beck's turnover problems and Mike Bobo not being able to adjust really worry me against this Tennessee defense because I do not think Tennessee puts up a big number in this game. I stand by what I said. If you get to 20 in this game, you're probably going to win. But I do worry that like Carson, they need a drive from Georgia and Carson Beck, and he gets that pressure in his face and he throws a bad pick. I worry about that a lot more than I do with Tennessee's offense. Like this is a tough one to be clear. I don't have a strong lean on either side of this. My biggest lean is the under. I think the under is a good play in this game because I like both defenses better than anything. Carson Beck has me worried, quite frankly, as does Mike Bobo, but he has for the entire season.
That's fair. Last time Georgia lost at home, I didn't have long hair, and Carson Beck was still in high school. So go dogs.
Yeah, 100%.
For give it away for me, I can't tell if this is a kingpin or a popper. I've got Arizona State at Kansas State.
Hell yes.
Give me the Sun Devils. So there you go.
We're forking it up.
We're forking it up. Okay, we're gonna go back to Can't Stop. I'm gonna go
I
back to this.
apologize.
That's fine. It's going back to a story time with Bueller. So there's a guy. I was trying to figure out how to say this. So you know the refrain "Can't stop addicted to the shindig." There was a guy in my high school, a little bit older than me. Is his last name ended in dig, so we'll say that. But like, I'm not gonna say his name, but like, he was crazy. We used to go around on the swim team and go, "Can't read. Your name is blah 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 blah." Can't
Incredible
read.
stuff.
The Arizona State podcast is like, "You were mean." I'm like, "Yeah, but it was funny."
Correct. Yes. As long as you're funny when you're mean, it's fine.
And I'm addicted to the shindig of seeing if these head coaches will be fired. I've got Baylor at West Virginia. So
Ooh,
give me Baylor, give me Dave Miranda. A little too much Zen for Neil Brown here. So give me the Bears.
love that. So can't stop. That's where I have Texas, Arkansas. No, somewhat of a trap game. Um, honestly, can't stop for this game is about me. I can't quit Quinn Ewers, dude. I'm addicted to the
No,
shindig. I'm addicted to it. I think that not only does Texas avoid the upset, I think they win by 30 plus in this game. That's my big prediction for this. I think that we saw Quinn Ewers come back off of the bye and look like the Quinn Ewers that I'm high on. Like the one who isn't still dealing with an oblique injury, the one who looks healthy and can run this offense to perfection. I think Texas wins this big.
I don't have that game for as much as I want to see Arkansas do cartwheels in the streets. They're not winning. It's going to be Texas. So
Yeah,
that's what I got for that. I want to bring this up here too. So I was looking at the research. You know, every single Red Hot song is about California. And I looked it up. I'm like, I'm sitting thinking like, I don't think any of them were born in California. And it's absolutely true.
of course it is. Of course it is.
Because Anthony Kiedis is from Grand Rapids, Michigan, because he came to LA with his dad, who was an actor slash
Okay.
drug dealer.
Last drug dealer.
Flea was born in Melbourne, Australia. I feel like people know that.
That's
Chad
basically
Smith
Los Angeles.
Chad Smith was from the Twin Cities. Was born in St. Paul. And I'm like, okay, John Frusciante. It's either here or there. But I remember his mom was an opera singer, so New York. That's where he was born. So none of them were born there. Maybe I
California.
maybe that's why they got rid of Dave Navarro after that one. He was like, you're actually from here. We don't want you to be here. Bear, bear,
You're not
bear,
nearly enough
bear.
of a poser for us. Come on, man.
Jane's addiction was being addicted to California. This false
That's
start.
right.
How long will you slide with some other side?
This is Missouri, South Carolina for me because see on the other side, one of these teams is going. We can stop talking about them after this week, quite frankly. And frankly, I think we can already do that. But apparently, Eli thinks otherwise about Missouri, and Missouri is or South Carolina is now in the top 25. So guess we do somewhat have to talk about them. South Carolina is going to beat the brakes off this Missouri team. I don't care if it's Brady Cook or Drew Pine. It really doesn't matter to me because this Missouri front can't hold up against South Carolina's front. This game's in Columbia, South Carolina, not Como, Missouri. So like I do think that everything is coming up Missouri here, and I think it's probably not close. And I think it's another game where Missouri gets into a big game and shows they just don't have it.
Think that's fair. I'd give you the Cox. That's what I wanted this. That's what so Antonio would want me to do say.
100%.
I've got Cincinnati at Iowa State. I think these teams are sliding, and I will separate my side laughing when I see the Cincinnati Bearcats and Scott Satterfield not go to a bowl game. Give me the clones.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
And the last one, tell me, baby, because there was nothing of substance on Stadium Arcadium that we could possibly put on here. So you're gonna like mine. I'm gonna hear yours. What you got for that game?
This is where I got Utah, Colorado. Tell me, baby, what's your story, Colorado? Are you for real? Has what I've been seeing, which is the best team in the Big 12 over the past month, is that real? Is like, are you gonna like let Utah come in off of a back-breaking Holy War loss and end your chances of making the college football playoff in the Big 12 championship game? Are you gonna do that, or are you gonna be for real? I think it's for real, man. I think Shador, Travis Hunter, all like the defensive front, the offensive line, they're all playing way better than I thought they were going to this season. I believe in this Colorado team. I'm going with the Buffs.
Bam, 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 bam. California. Surprisingly,
California.
I don't think I have any team from California in JLN here, but we did have them for Antonio. But I've got LSU at Florida because Brian Kelly and Urban Meyer want to know your stories.
What's your story? Hey, Bubba.
Hey, LSU. Florida's maybe winning one more game the rest of the year. That's in some ain't no sunshine.
Yeah, no, I will also join you with on the LSU side of that. Like, yeah, tough loss to come off of against Alabama. You know, it's a good remedy for that. A Florida team that's just like walking into the stadium on crutches at this point.
There's a lot of people from New York and the Midwest who say, you know what's going to cure all my problems? Going to Florida.
100%.
There's a lot of people from everywhere else who say, you know what's going to cure my problems? Let's go to California. And a lot enough people do that, and the place has just become crazy.
100%. There's also a lot of people in Florida that say, I want to get out of Florida. Let me go to Western North Carolina for some unknown to God reason. But the elderly Floridian population in Western North Carolina is high.
Um, they come to Atlanta too, and they wear their Gators stuff, and I'm just like, and they're
You're
probably here
kidding
for the
me.
Saints. I'm like, and the Mets, and I'm like, do you want to be run over by a car? Because people here are capable of that.
I'll save my Georgia football team joke.
They'll get down from Athens there in an hour. That's all I'll
That's
say.
right.
Rambling wreck of Georgia Tech. Beep, beep.
Burr, burr.
How did you die? Oh, somebody ran me over with an Archie Andrews car.
Oh my God.
Dude, it looked like Rhett Lashley, but I couldn't tell.
I couldn't quite see him. I couldn't make out the face.
Universally speaking, this was episode 126 of Fall Start. You can follow me, John Buhler, on Twitter or the X at Buhler118. You can follow Cody Williams at the Sizzle20. You can follow the show at CFB Fall Start. Like, rate, listen, subscribe, review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere there's podcasts. Somebody did give us a 5-star review. It showed up. We'll figure out who it is once the comment takes a couple days for that to come up there, but we'll give you a
100%.
shout out on the show as well. There's a dog behind you and there's a person behind you in this.
Just mail delivery. We're fine.
Yeah, mailman. Yes, I know. The dogs delivering the mail. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be on the show for Saturday. Like I said, the Arizona State podcast has a wrap up for her show. Working at TV can be challenging and stuff, so I got to go up there
Yeah.
and support her and be Kurt Cobain arm candy, I suppose.
Dude, you're the best eye candy and arm candy that I could possibly think of. So, you know, she's the real winner here.
Yeah, she is. I'm trying to think of a red hot pun to get us out of here. So give me a second, please. Just fam.
I like the Red Hot Chili Peppers are such a ridiculous band, dude. Like they're legitimately in their 60s and they dress like a 8-year-old who gets to dress himself, basically.
One of the few times they were really good live was back in '04 when they were playing at Hyde Park in Chicago and they covered up Brandy by Looking Glass.
Oh
And it
yeah.
was and it was awesome. It's like, dude, there's a poor
Dude, I don't know if we could do a full Looking Glass just like Novocaine, but we should just do 6 brandies, frankly. What game also reminds you of Brandy?
Brandy, you're a fine girl, but you're breaking the girl, Antonio. And this is false start.